welcome back to She Who Heals podcast, a podcast for women who are doing the brave, beautiful, and sometimes messy work of coming back home to themselves. I'm your host, Kels, and your sister in this work, so let's get right into it. Okay, guys, today's going to be a little tender, and I feel a little emotional even getting started with this episode because it does hit close to home. Today we're talking about the well-known topic of making friends in adulthood, but those little nuances for my ladies who are scrolling through their contacts wishing that they had a friend to key with, or for the woman who has watched other women seemingly build friendships and community effortlessly. Or maybe you know that you don't want a huge friend group, just some true blue homegirls that you can count on. I feel like we grew up, if you're a millennial, in the 90s watching Living Single or watching Girlfriends or Sister, and just imagining the life we would have in the future, full of friendships, full of girls' trips, and women that you could share the deepest and most intimate parts of yourself with, that's still on a platonic level. Because there's joy in creating those relationships and fostering them, stewarding long lifetime relationships that see you through different phases of life. There's really something special about it. But when you open yourself up to a friendship and that door gets shut on you, or when you realize someone wanted access to you and not a real relationship, it hurts, just to put it simply. And I know a lot of us, even though it's a well-known topic, we sit in silence about this or we vent on social media. But I just want to remind you that nothing is wrong with you. And I want to spend the next 20 or so minutes just sitting with you in that truth. So why is making friends as an adult actually hard? I think that's the first thing we need to dissect. And when I think about it, I think about how when we were kids, when we were younger in high school, we had proximity and a shared space with our friends. We were going to school every day. We were doing extracurricular activities. Even some of us who had jobs as teenagers and early adults, it was easier to foster those relationships because we were seeing these people every day. And we had that repetitive nature to our relationships. But I think now as we're older and we get our big girl jobs, careers, entrepreneurship, whatever path you took, first of all, we're busy. And I will take time to acknowledge that and hold space for those of you who, I don't know, maybe on the other end of this and have friends that are expecting a lot from you or just always wanting to be together. We're busy, so that doesn't always happen. And we're also in the age of technology and just rapid communication, whereas before you had to literally call someone up or write them a letter or just see them the next day at school if you wanted to tell them something important. But now we have access to each other almost 24/7 with our phones. Not a lot of us actually even turn our phones off at night. That used to be a thing too before smartphones existed. We were turning our phones off at night, and that doesn't happen anymore. So a lot of us don't have space or capacity to manage so many relationships, especially if we're married or if you have kids. That even adds another level of complexity to finding time for friendships and relationships. So I definitely understand that. And I want to preface this conversation with that, of course. But I think the other thing that we don't talk about a lot is that we have a lot of value shifts at this age, the age I'm in, or honestly any age. Some of us are a little bit late bloomer. Some of us are a little more mature. So maybe in your 20s, you start to realize that you didn't necessarily get along with a lot of your friends. You just had more history. Or maybe there were things that they were participating in that didn't really align with who you were. And maybe they did before, but now that you don't like to drink as much or go to the club all the time, maybe you and your friends don't really have as much in common as you thought you did. And that's also totally acceptable. But we have to be honest that this does add complexity and make finding friends and making friends as an adult just that much harder. But I feel like if you're that person who ditched your high school or college friends or just didn't stay connected, it almost feels as if you're starting from scratch when you're in your 30s. And that's not really the best feeling, because I think, speaking for myself, I can sometimes feel a little bit I don't know, left out of people who have had the same friends since kindergarten or elementary. And I just really want to also reiterate that I feel like we were taught and under the impression that this was an easy thing to do. Or maybe you're a person who has had friendship breakups since that high school or college age. And that's also a tough thing to grieve, for one, but also to come back from after you feel like you've put yourself out there and you've had a tough friendship breakup. So I just want to say that if you felt lonely or if you've craved genuine friendship or sisterhood and you haven't been able to find these things, that is a human experience. And it's not something personal that's wrong with you or a failure on your part. Not always, anyway. So let's really get into friendship grief. And I want to touch on that because I feel like it's real and it's not really talked about as much, especially in the friend making space. But we have so many cultural scripts for romantic breakups. There's songs, there's movies. You can download breakup playlist on Spotify and Apple. There's nothing like that for friendship breakups. I feel like you're just supposed to quietly move on with your life when that's not always the way it goes or how it feels. And this does matter in your life because like any relationship, they should be important to you. And when you suddenly stop being friends with someone, it is a hard thing. And it does take an adjustment period to, I don't know, feel like yourself again or even feel ready to make new friends. And then it's like you start to kind of avoid getting close to people because you don't want to experience one of those harsh breakups or periods where you aren't getting along with your friends because it's not easy. And it's like your nervous system is trying to protect you from that hurt. So a lot of us don't try again, or we just sit on the outside and watch other people have friends. And I'm laughing, but it's not even funny. It literally can paralyze people into being socially awkward or just not feeling socially fulfilled. Sometimes it's that awkward feeling when you're learning someone new or making friends with someone new. And it could bring up a lot of feelings. I had an experience a couple years ago that I do want to share with you guys because I feel like it pertains to this. I think it captures something that a lot of us have maybe felt but not really been able to name. So I met someone here in the spiritual community in North Carolina. The person had been like events, building up their brands, and they were actually looking for ambassadors for their brand to just help them like build more community. And long story short, I told them that I was interested in that opportunity. We met about it and I was told that we would follow up. But that follow-up never really came. Again, I'm understanding of adults who have businesses, or business owners, work 9 to 5s, or maybe a combination of the two. It does take a lot and it is very busy. And this person also was pretty vocal on social media about like being busy and not being the best at responding to text. So I took it upon myself just to reach out because they even said like, sometimes you have to hit me up more than once. Cool. I can be understanding. I was extending grace at this time. Then I just decided, let me reach out. And I asked them if they wanted to hang out to brainstorm, like go to a coffee shop and just get some work done, whether that be for the brand or any other thing that they maybe had to do. Because for me, I'm like, I can always go to a coffee shop and get some work done, no matter what it is. But somewhere along the lines, they were like, oh yeah, let me like send you like a Zoom link kind of thing. And I was just like, that's interesting. Like this is, I thought maybe like a cool friend meetup because they also mentioned that they were looking to make friends. So I thought that we were kind of on the same page with that. But maybe I shouldn't have assumed. Maybe it was always meant to be professional and not like a friendship that I could have completely misread. So when I finally suggested that we go to a coffee shop and like up to work and edit and just, be around each other. Because for me, I'm like, when I meet someone or I'm making friends, like I want to get to know them, but in like a way that's comfortable for both of us and like low pressure. So they responded by inviting me to a networking event. And something in me just kind of like went quiet because it felt a little dismissive, but I wasn't even like hurt. I just feel like it finally clicked for me what was being communicated. It just seemed like they were offering like networking access, group access, professional access, but just not like friendship. or personal access. And to be clear, I don't think this person was being malicious at all. I think some people just really don't know how to like handle one-on-one relationships, honestly, or intimacy, if you will. I think some people have their own wounds around closeness, especially if, again, you've had a friendship breakup in the past or something that just like went south, or even family relationships can make you hesitant to become close to people depending on how they turned out. Some people navigate the world through the safety of groups and not being in private settings with people. I even held the possibility that my sexuality had something to do with it, because even though I'm happily married and comfortable with my sexuality, other people aren't all the time. And even though I'm just trying to make a friend, some people can take that another way or just be uncomfortable because I'm a lesbian. I don't know. I was hoping that wasn't what it was, but it did cross my mind because I know how weird people can be about it. And when I look back, there were comments made like on their social media about how like they felt like Black women were always in competition with them and stuff like that. And I just put that in the back of my mind, like not as like judging them, but just as information that would help me like better understand where they were coming from. And sometimes what people say about others is actually an indicator of how they feel about themselves. So eventually I just stopped reaching out. After that time, I was just like, maybe this isn't a connection I'm supposed to continue to try to make, and I stopped responding or just hitting them up altogether. And then they ended up, I believe, unfollowing me on social media. I didn't think much about it because honestly, in the past few years, a lot of my attempts at making friends have been a little, I don't know, interesting, if you will, of just like who's communicating first, who is gonna, just be the one to kind of like try to put yourself out there, I guess, if you will. And sometimes the response is good, sometimes it's awkward, and sometimes it's nothing. So it didn't hurt me per se, but I was just like, this is just another one of those situations where I've met someone who's not aligned, or I've just met someone who isn't interested in friendships. And then I had to ask myself, okay, are you going to reach back out? Is this something you feel like you need to address? And the answer was no. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't really feel like we had built the safety in our friendship, or I don't know, acquaintance. It wasn't really a safe container where I could have that conversation. So I just let it go. And especially because I'm in a place in my life where I'm being very particular about where I'm doing emotional labor. But I hope that if you've had a similar experience, you understand that, again, you're not alone, and just sometimes you just need to sit with the fact that you'll find the right people eventually. It just takes time to kind of weed through folks sometimes. So along the same lines, I feel like I want to touch on in this episode something that our generation of women, especially entrepreneurs, especially women who are building brands and hosting events, or who are creators or in the spiritual and wellness spaces, need to talk about more openly, at least. I've started to see a little bit of discord about it on Threads recently, but let's get into that too. Not everyone that approaches you wants friendship. Let's just be real. Some people want your network. Some people want that proximity to you when they see that you're doing well for yourself. Some people just want a content partner or someone that they can collab with. And a lot of times they actually will dress that up as sisterhood and be like, yes, sis, let's get together. Let's support one another. And you'll be thinking it's one thing the whole time until you get close enough to them to see that that's not at all what they want. They just wanted access to you. And I'm not really talking to just the people who have had that experience and been on the receiving end of someone kind of being an opportunist or like having ulterior motives, especially in social settings. I also want to call in those who are the women trying to build community. When you're building something and when you're in that growth phase, it can be really easy to approach something like that and approach new connections through the lens of how someone can support your business or how they can add to your current world. But it's also easy to mistake that genuine connection and interest as a desire to know someone. And I feel like this goes for social settings that are not business-like too. For example, girls who say, let's meet up, let's link up to go, even to like a party. Sometimes that becomes a content thing too. And it's easy to do that when we're in the age where everyone is wanting to be a creator or wanting to get brand partnerships and just put themselves out there. So trust me, I completely understand the times that we're in. But true friendship is about the mundane, and true friendship wants to get to know you on a random Wednesday, not just for a networking event. True friendship can be boring sometimes, and it doesn't need a platform to feel valuable. But there's nothing wrong with networking. I'm not trying to say that or come off that way. But when you package that networking as friendships, it can be a little misleading, and it can make someone feel like they're being invited to closeness only to redirect them and be like, girl, let's just shoot this content, or I really just wanted to collab, etc., etc. That creates some confusion and sometimes hurt that takes a while to name. And I think that's part of the issue. We have to hold ourselves accountable for maybe differentiating between the two in some way, or being able to check in with yourself as you're building whatever it is you're building and ask, are you pursuing genuine connection, or are you pursuing what someone can offer you? Because both can coexist, I feel like, in some form or fashion. I feel like you can have a friend that you collaborate with often if you both have businesses, or maybe there's something that your friend can teach you about opening your own business because they've been in business for 10 years and something completely separate. But being honest about it is what keeps things clean, smooth, no questions asked. And so for those of you on the receiving end, your grief is valid, because it can be confusing when someone just wants to have that access to you without really building genuine connection. And the feelings you felt, the gut feeling, the intuition of, I don't think this is really what I thought it was correct. It's okay for you to grieve that misconnection, misalignment, and just trust that your people will find you when the time is right. As cliche as that sounds. So what do we do with this in the age of social media and content creators and streamers and serial entrepreneurship, if you will? How do you stay open when you feel like staying open costs you something? Well, honor your feelings. Honor if you need to take a step back, if you need to take a few months before you even try to put yourself out there again. It's no different than if you were in a relationship breakup and you needed to take some time off of the apps, right? There are actually apps for making friends. Bumble is one of those apps that you could use if you are ready to get back in there. But you are going to go through a process of resetting your emotions and your focus, and maybe finding different ways to connect with people, like through hobbies or different groups that you can find in your local community, where maybe there's a little less pressure to actually make friends at first. And maybe it's something where you can connect to someone through taking time, consistency, that repetitive thing that we had as kids when we were basically at school with each other every day. If you're going to a weekly, support group, whether it's for spirituality or religion, maybe a sister circle or a full moon circle in your area at a local spiritual store, even things like pickleball, you can find community in that with a little bit less pressure, I feel like. We do have to give ourselves a chance to reset though, because your nervous system is going to probably just be ready to get let down. And it's going to take a minute to switch gears, because we don't just auto update our nervous systems when the context changes. Your body is not really going to know the difference when you step into a new place or go to a new group for the first time. You still will probably have those jitters, but you don't have to ignore that hesitancy. That's not healing. It's just being curious about it, and maybe journaling anytime you do decide to put yourself out there and kind of check in, see how you feel about a group of people that you meet, or anytime you're pursuing that new friendship. Because I really want us to maybe take it as an understood thing that adult friendships are hard and that they're built slowly, because again, we're busy. So it might not be every day that you're talking to a friend or texting a friend. And a lot of friends that last the longest are pretty low maintenance, because we have to both be on the same page with our lives being busy, but also different. So while your friend might be going through a busy season, they're getting married, they're starting a new job, it might be a slower season for you. And it's still great to be understanding and to give that grace, because that is how the connection stays clean and just not overpowered with feelings of like being passive aggressive. When a friend hasn't texted you in a while and you feel like, oh, this is the same thing I've been dealing with, take a second and remind yourself that it's not automatically going to end up like your other friendship breakups, and the person probably is not letting you down. They're probably just really busy. I think it takes not only a bit of grace, but also discernment. And while you're checking in with having that moment of, let me check in with my intuition and really think about if this person is being malicious or if they're just possibly going through something on their own. That's even an opportunity for more intimacy by checking on them and seeing, hey, it's been a minute. How's it going? Just checking in, right? Because if you were on the other end and if you were going through a busy season, that's something you would appreciate. But if it's consistently you reaching out every time, even as far as that person, because I've seen people on social media say this, I'm so terrible at texting, I'm bad at reaching out, or you'll have to text me 3 or 4 times before I respond. That might be cool for some of us, but for some of us, that's a deal breaker. And there may be a point where you have to have a conversation with a person like, hey, this is how you are, but this doesn't necessarily match the kind of friends that I want. Not to be like, not in a toxic way where you're anxiously waiting for your friend to text you back, but just knowing that if it's been 4 to 6 weeks and they've not responded to your double text on more than one occasion, maybe they're not aligned with you, and that's okay. I feel like even in friendships, we can make I don't want to say a wish list, but just pointers so that we can remember what we're looking for, but also the type of friend we want to be, because it's going to take that consistency of those small check-ins, but also being there for someone when it's inconvenient. And that is really what makes a friendship even that more genuine. So it's almost time to close out, but I want to know in the comments what your status is when it comes to making friends. If you are someone who has a great friend group, maybe leave a tip for someone in the comments of what worked for you. If you are someone who is in the middle and you're just like, I have a couple friends, but I am looking to make new connections, leave a comment, because you never know. You might meet someone in the comments that you want to connect with. If you don't have connections, if you're not looking, I'd love to know more about that too. If there's anywhere that you found that making friends is easier, like in a social setting or a certain club or group, leave that in the comments too, because I find it fascinating, honestly, making connections, how they're made when they're great. It's good to know, like, where did you find this friend? Because I need one. I think online community can be nice because it's just more accessible, and some of us just have a little less time to travel and more time to be maybe virtually connected to someone. So I'm interested to know where you are in your friendship making journey. And if you resonate with what we talked about today, just let me know in the comments. And really quick, before we move into our ritual, I just want to take a moment to ground ourselves after that conversation, because maybe you were actually processing as you were listening and thinking about your past friendships and maybe some friendship grief, and that can be tough. So I want us to take this time to release any of that tension and give yourself the space that you need. So if you will, just take a moment with me. If you have the space, take a deep breath. And I'll breathe out with you. I've got some affirmations that I want to share. These are for you. These are specially curated just for this conversation. You can read them with me or after me, whatever feels right. Take another deep breath if you need to. All right. I am worthy of genuine, reciprocal friendship. My openness is not a weakness. It is one of the most courageous things about me. I release the relationships that could not hold me, and I'm grateful for what they taught me. I trust myself to know the difference between someone who wants to get to know me and someone who wants to use me. The right relationships are already making their way to me. I do not have to chase or convince anyone to see my value. Okay, loves, and this is the part that I really want you to make time for. It's a ritual, so if you're driving, you can listen now or come back to it. If you can pause and be present with me now, please do that. So this ritual is going to be a written release. It is 3 parts, and it's honestly for the friendships that ended without an explanation, or the ones that ended messily, or the ones that you're just still carrying tenderness about that you really can't even name or put words as to why. So take this sacred time and use this release ritual to its full benefit. I'm going to go ahead and explain what you'll need for the ritual first. So you'll need a piece of paper, something to write with, and either a candle, a bowl, or access to somewhere safe where you can burn something. And if you want, you can tear the paper. You don't have to burn it when you're done. You can also simply just fold it and throw it away, but I like to burn it and let these things return to the earth. But the act of release is really what matters, not necessarily the method that you use. So for the first step, it's going to be grounding. You're going to go ahead and take a candle and light that candle. And then you're going to take 3 deep breaths. Place your hand on your heart and say aloud or in your head, I am safe, I am held, I am allowed to feel this. So really ground yourself in the present moment as you light your candle and say those affirmations. For step 2, you're going to be writing a letter. Specifically, you're going to write to the friendship itself. Not really to the person necessarily, but to the version of the relationship that you maybe hoped for that didn't happen or didn't play out. And be honest, okay? Let yourself really express this, even if it's messy. You might write something along the lines of, I wanted you to show up for me. I felt confused when. What I really needed was. There's no right way to complete this letter, but know that no one else is going to read it except you, and write till you feel something shift. All right, and step 3 is the release. So after you're done writing the letter, you need to read it aloud to yourself if it's safe to do so. Then you're going to tear the paper if you choose not to burn it. If it is safe to burn and accessible, you can burn your letter or bury it, dissolve it in water. Your intention is going to matter more than anything for this process. And as you release it, you're going to say out loud, if you can, I release you with love. I release myself with love. What was meant to stay has stayed. What is meant to come is already on its way. Take a deep breath. Let it out. The final step is to seal this ritual. So come back to your breath. Place your hand on your heart again. We're going to take another deep breath. Sigh it out. On the exhale, you're going to imagine your chest softening, and that space where you experience grief is beginning to breathe. You don't have to be ready to try again today. You just need to be willing to begin to let it go. All right, loves, we really covered a lot today, and I want to thank you for your presence and your willingness to just try again and, really replay these things for yourself, whether it's an old friendship, or maybe this is even with a family member, or you could apply this to your romantic partnerships. The hesitancy that follows being hurt by someone is so real, and you're not alone in that feeling. But I really want you to know that the fact that you're still willing and the fact that you still want connection, even after being disappointed, is one of the most beautiful things about you. Don't let anyone convince you to close your heart. Be soft, be open, but be discerning. The right people are looking for you just the same way you're looking for them. So if something in this episode touched you, please share it with another woman that you love or a woman you've been thinking about reaching out to. This could be the bridge, the olive branch, if you will. You can always find more from me at divinefeminineco.org. I'm on Instagram, at Wellness with Kels, and Instagram and Threads at divine_feminine_co. The link for everything is always in the YouTube description or the show notes if you're listening to the podcast. And until next time, just remember, we're all becoming something. Thanks for being here while I become too. Bye.